right, welcome back, everybody, for another top 10 in 10. This is going to be the top 10 hottest comics selling this week that I'm going to present to you in 10 minutes or less. This is members first content, so members will get to see this today, Thursday, as I film this, and I'll drop it right away. Everybody else will have to wait until Friday afternoon to check out my top 10 list. So, if you want to know what books are selling on the aftermarket this week, all you have to do is hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. Okay, so let's get ready to start our top 10 in 10. Let me get my clock going here so we can get this thing started. And with that, let's go. 10 minutes. All right. So, as we do most weeks, we're going to start off with our follow up. This is going to be a follow up to my Wednesday watch list that I give you earlier in the week of some books that are coming out this given week. And I think I'm keeping an eye on to see if they're going to get hot or not. This week, not many maintained. Not many maintained the the avid pre-sales that were happening. So that's the case. That happens a lot of times. So that's why this I think is helpful to look at the before and after to see what happens with this market. So with that said, the only real book that was a pre-sale for this week that I could see that's still selling or selling at a decent premium that we can consider this, one of the top books is this Jabba's Palace 1 in 25 second print incentive variant. As I mentioned at the time, there were no sales leading into the week, pre-sales before Wednesday, and there were only a couple listed, and they wanted a lot of money. Well, guess what? Those copies sold, and they got a lot of money. $175 accepted on that $230 sale, $185 sale, and a best offer on $200 where they accepted $160. So basically, this almost hit $200 for this 1 in 25 incentive second print variant. I don't know. I figure these are probably going to be hard to find, but that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. But hey, it is what it is. But that is the only variant and book that I looked at this week that seems worth talking about today for our top 10 and 10. So with that, let's go back to a book that we actually had on this list before, and that is the Silk 1 in 25 David Nakayama cover. Why is this still here? Well, it's going for more money than it was before. Last week, this thing was selling for about $40, which I said above for 1 in 25 was selling above ratio. So I was surprised that it maintained those sales following those, high pre-sales. I know there's stories about how there was some confusion over where this book was being released, whether it was going to be an exclusive for Nakayama, etc. But whatever the case, people are buying this book. I have one. Thankfully, I did buy one because I like it. I'm a fan of David Nakayama. But this week, $70, $80, $75 on some of those best offers. And then that auction, $202.50, 51 bids. I'm not going to call shenanigans. It's a little weird that it's a little bit of an outlier. But since that sale, now there was a new copy listed asking for like $200. Granted, there's still $100 copies out there. I think 202 might be a little extreme. Maybe something got out of hand. I don't know. But by and large, still hitting $80 and $70 is doubling what it was doing last week. So still on the rise and something to keep an eye out for. Now, next, I'm going to pose this question to you because I did have a hard time doing the list this week because there wasn't a lot that was really selling. Now, not a lot of books selling in high volumes, no real big announcements like that was really driving a lot of sales. So let me ask you if you consider this hot, because we're going to start off going in with some books that I had mentioned earlier. Going to another one of those 1 in 25 second print variants. This Invincible Iron Man. Again, it's a second print incentive. Black and white cover, Art Adams. Pretty nice. Last week, this thing sold for $45. There was only the one sale. And at the time, I told you there were no more listed. And there weren't. But now we only have one listed. And it's asking $400. So I'm putting this out there because can we call this hot because there's a crazy high ask? Is that a valid asking price? I don't know. That's the only copy that's there. I've told you when we were going into the week that there was one pre-sold like a couple months ago, and then there was this one that was out there that sold for $45. So we've had one sale and one listed in the last 2 weeks or so. So it could be tough to find. Can we call it hot? I don't know, but I still thought it was worth mentioning, which is why I put it in this little weird segment of Is This Hot? Because I have another question to ask you. Another book that came out this week, and another second print, 1 in 25 incentive variant, this time for Amazing Spider-Man 7, first appearance of Spider-Boy, this virgin cover. 14 sales since this book was released on Wednesday. But going into this Wednesday, there were 100 plus pre-sales. So, with the large volume, that's over the last month or so. Those were listed like beginning in April. So, April through May now, a month and a half, 100 plus pre-sales. But only 14 actual sales since this book was released. Do we consider this hot? I don't know. That's a tough question. Because before Wednesday, going into this, this was like a $50 to $60 book. After this dropped on Wednesday, it's still right around 50, but there's a lot of sales that are including like lots of the regular cover in there. Like we get 5 covers of the regular. So you're getting like $20 worth of extra books included for free with your $50 purchase. Seems like an odd thing. So is it hot? I don't know. But I still wanted to mention those 2 books this week because, again, it was a slow week. So I thought they were kind of interesting. You let me know in the comments what you think about those 2 books or what you would call those. But moving on, we got another repeat. Another repeat with Captain Marvel 17, which seems to be leading the pack in the preference on these 2 books of 16 and 17. I showed you the guts on another show with the inside of 16. She's there. Philovelle is in there. She's named. She's dressed. She's in a couple of panels. So she's in there. You want to call it a cameo, whatever. That's not the point. But people seem to be going for that first cover appearance there on 17. 30 plus sales between the 2 of them. And we're seeing a slight increases in some of the sales and more graded sales this past week than the week before. As you can see here, 9.8 accepted a best offer of $190, 197.50, and another 9.8 sold at auction. And then lo and behold, that other one, granted, it was, I don't know if it was in the greatest of shape, but only 16.50 for that 16. So it seems like 17 has become the market winner for the first Philovelle books. But you pick and choose which one you want. As long as you know what you're buying, it doesn't really matter. It's up to you. It's your money after all. Again, that's coming out of Guardians, right? Guardians 3 is still driving that book even a couple of weeks later. And they are also driving this, Marvel Premiere 1, The Power of Warlock, as while only a little over 20 sales doesn't seem like a whole heck of a lot. This is a lot for a book that hasn't done anything in like months, if not years. Granted, there was initial rush when we were talking about Warlock, but you got all the confusions over, you want the Thor book? Do you want the Fantastic Four books? Here's the first solo. He gets called Warlock by a High Evolutionary, so it kind of ties into the movie a little bit more. This seems to be a book that people want now. Copies here you can see selling for around $50 to $60 raw. Higher grade raw copies hitting more like $200. And there are still some little banged up copies that still might run you like 30. But so wide range, older book condition is going to determine the price. But this is a book, like I said, that is starting to move a little bit based off of that movie. I guess we're going to expect to see more Adam Warlock in the MCU future. Next bit. We're going to talk about this on Dollar Bin Digging too, because this is a book you can still find in those dollar bins. And we're talking about Captain America 310, which also has about 20 plus sales since the news from only like a day or 2 ago that we saw snapshots of Seth Rollins of WWE fame. Seth frickin' Rollins is going to be in the MCU, and he looks to be part of one of the Serpent Society, who were first introduced here. I'm also going to give you another book. I know we talked about it on Dollar Bin Digging already back in January. We're going to talk about it again because they are still out there. So go digging. But this book, 20 plus sales since this week over this recent announcement. This is hitting $20 again. As I said, this is a Dollar Bin book. This is a book that regularly sold for only like $5 even online. Now it's up to $20 because of the recent news with Seth Rollins. Going back to another book that's been on the list before, Ambassadors. Ambassadors 1, but now it's being joined by Ambassadors Issue 2, which we do know just got a second print recently as well. I mentioned how Image hasn't been overprinting, so we're getting a lot more second prints, and those original first prints may not be as easy to find as you might think. Prices on these, about 20 to 25, well, actually $25 thereabouts, 20 to 25 on either of them, Issue 1 or 2, first prints. Just kind of ballparking it, but Issue 2 seems to be doing quite well. Decent read. I suggest you go and check it out if you're not reading it. It seems built to be made into a series of some kind. Another book we can talk about. We only got a minute and a half left, so I got to speed through this. Another book for us to talk about. More news regarding Deadpool 3 has renewed interest in our New Mutants 98. I know. volumes aren't really higher. So I didn't give you a number of sales because it doesn't seem to be selling more copies than before. And even prices aren't really selling for significantly higher than they have been. But what I found interesting were some of the auction prices specifically. So that's what we're going to call this out. $349 for one auction, 42, or is that 40 or 42 bids for $621 on another raw copy. These are all raw, by the way, not graded sales. 31 bids for $405. So I saw a lot more raw copies selling this past week, which I thought was interesting instead of all the graded copies, because there are a number of graded copies in the census already. But thought it was interesting, thought it was worth noting. Keep an eye on your raw New Mutants 98s. And our last book with 30 seconds left is the book from last week. It is still selling. This promo book still had 140 plus sales, which is down from last week, but that's still a big number. And as you've seen from the other books I've showed you, that's way higher than a lot of other books. Not a lot of volume the last week. So 140 plus sales is still pretty impressive. And it still seems to be hanging around there in that $15 kind of range. There's some cheap copies. You can see my comic shop drop some copies for only $7, but there's still some $20 sales, even at auction. So this book still seems to be selling. And that is our time. Whew, just made it. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for all you members. Thanks to everybody for the support. I got more content coming your way, including Dollar Bin Digging for members later tonight. Everybody else, you would have saw it last night. But that's what I got for you. Plenty more coming your way. Make sure you come back. Check out the live shows on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we'll start the week over again on Monday. And speaking of Saturday night special, I'm probably going to go and join them this week for fun. They got some new segments, so let's see what's happening. If you haven't watched Saturday Night Special, come check it out this week. And make sure you check out Friday too, because they just rebranded, and those guys are doing a hell of a job as well. So with that all said, I'll see you guys later. All right, bye.